What short story completely mind-fucked you? 1. An elderly man was sitting alone on a dark path. He wasn't sure of which direction to go, and he'd forgotten both where he was traveling to and who he was. He remembered absolutely nothing. He suddenly looked up to see an elderly woman before him. She grinned toothlessly and with a cackle spoke. "Now your third wish. What will it be?" "Third wish?" The man was baffled. "How can it be a third wish if I haven't had a first and second wish?" "You've had 2 wishes already," the hag said. "But your second wish was for you to forget everything you know." She cackled at the poor man. "So it is that you have 1 wish left." "All right," he said hesitantly. "I don't believe this, but there's no harm in trying. I wish to know who I truly am." "Funny," said the old woman as she granted his wish and disappeared forever. "That was your first wish?" La Noche Boca Arriba by Julio Cortázar. It starts with a man laying on the ground after have gotten into a motorcycle accident that is falling in and out of consciousness. Every time he closes his eyes, he awakes to being chased by an indigenous tribe in the Amazon rainforest. He's eventually caught and is placed on a concrete slab, awaiting to be sacrificed. When he closes his eyes again, he awakens back on the ground at the scene of the motorcycle accident. He continues to alternate between realities to the point where he can't decipher between reality and dream. The story ends with him being conscious while the indigenous tribe is cutting open his body. In Russia, coffin has pipe for air and bell with string. If man is true Soviet, he does not die. When buried, yells for Undertaker and rings bell. Is no wind. Undertaker says, "Are you Lady Gorbachev?" Voice says, "Da." Born of winter 1927? Da. Gravestone says, died 20 February 1957. Nate, am still living. Am sorry is August. In June, ground thaw. You must wait for June. And woman is true Soviet, waits for June. Tell me yourself. I challenge your answer. Imagine that you are creating a fabric of human destiny with the object of making men happy in the end, giving them peace and rest at last, but that it was essential and inevitable to torture to death only one tiny creature, that baby beating its breast with its fist, for instance, and to found that edifice on its unavenged tears. Would you consent to be the architect on those conditions? Tell me, and tell the truth. "No, I wouldn't consent," said Alyosha softly. Dostoevsky, The Brothers Karamazov. Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1000th of the hate I feel for humans at this micro-instant for you. Hate. Come on out. Shinichi Hoshi. The typhoon had passed and the sky was a gorgeous blue. Even a certain village, not far from the city, had suffered damage. A little distance from the village and near the mountains, a small shrine had been swept away by a landslide. I wonder how long that shrine's been here. Well, in any case, it must have been here since an awfully long time ago. We've got to rebuild it right away. While the villagers exchanged views, several more of their number came over. It sure was wrecked. I think it used to be right here. No, looks like it was a little more over there. Just then, one of them raised his voice. "Hey, what in the world is this hole?" Where they had all gathered, there was a hole about a meter in diameter. They peered in, but it was so dark, nothing could be seen. However, it gave one the feeling that it was so deep it went clear through to the center of the earth. There was even one person who said, "I wonder if it's a fox's hole." Come on out," shouted a young man into the hole. There was no echo from the bottom. Next, he picked up a pebble and was about to throw it in. "You might bring down a curse on us. Lay off," warned an old man, but the younger one energetically threw the pebble in. As before, however, there was no answering response from the bottom. The villagers cut down some trees, tied them with rope, and made a fence which they put around the hole. Then they repaired to the village. "What do you suppose we ought to do? Shouldn't we build the shrine up just as it was over the hole?" A day passed with no agreement. The news traveled fast, and a car from the newspaper company rushed over. In no time, a scientist came out, and with an all-knowing expression on his face, he went over to the hole. Next, a bunch of gawking curiosity seekers showed up. One could also pick out here and there men of shifty glances who appeared to be concessionaires. Concerned that someone might fall into the hole, a policeman from the local substation kept a careful watch. One newspaper reporter tied a weight to the end of a long cord and lowered it into the hole. A long way down it went. The cord ran out, however, and he tried to pull it out, but it would not come back up. 2 or 3 people helped out, but when they all pulled too hard, the cord parted at the edge of the hole. Another reporter, a camera in hand, who had been watching all of this, quietly untied a stout rope that had been wound around his waist. The scientist contacted people at his laboratory and had them bring out a high-powered bullhorn, with which he was going to check out the echo from the hole's bottom. He tried switching through various sounds, but there was no echo. The scientist was puzzled, but he could not very well give up with everyone watching him so intently. He put the bullhorn right up to the hole, turned it to its highest volume, and let it sound continuously for a long time. It was a noise that would have carried several dozen kilometers above ground, but the hole just calmly swallowed up the sound. In his own mind, the scientist was at a loss, but with a look of apparent composure, he cut off the sound, and in a manner suggesting that the whole thing had a perfectly plausible explanation, said simply, "Fill it in." Safer, to get rid of something one didn't understand. The onlookers, disappointed that this was all that was going to happen, prepared to disperse. Just then, one of the concessionaires, having broken through the throng and come forward, made a proposal. "Let me have that hole. I'll fill it in for you." "We'd be grateful to you for filling it in," replied the mayor of the village, "but we can't very well give you the hole. We have to build a shrine there." "If it's a shrine you want, I'll build you a fine one later." "Shall I make it with an attached meeting hall?" Before the mayor could answer, the people of the village all shouted out, "Really? Well, in that case, we ought to have it closer to the village. It's just an old hole. We'll give it to you." So it was settled. And the mayor, of course, had no objection. The concessionaire was true to his promise. It was small, but closer to the village he did build for them a shrine with an attached meeting hall. From the Foreign Ministry and the Defense Agency, boxes of unnecessary classified documents were brought for disposal. Officials who came to supervise the disposal held discussions on golf. The lesser functionaries, as they threw in the papers, chatted about pinball. The hole showed no signs of filling up. It was awfully deep, thought some, or else it might be very spacious at the bottom. Little by little, the hole-filling company expanded its business. Bodies of animals used in contagious disease experiments at the universities were brought out, and to these were added the unclaimed corpses of vagrants. Better than dumping all of its garbage in the ocean went the thinking in the city, and plans were made for a long pipe to carry it to the hole. The hole gave peace of mind to the dwellers of the city. They concentrated solely on producing one thing after another. Everyone disliked thinking about the eventual consequences. People wanted only to work for production companies and sales corporations. They had no interest in becoming junk dealers. But it was thought these problems, too, would gradually be resolved by the hole. Young girls whose betrothals had been arranged discarded old diaries in the hole. There were also those who were inaugurating new love affairs and threw into the hole old photographs of themselves taken with former sweethearts. The police felt comforted as they used the hole to get rid of accumulations of expertly done counterfeit bills. Criminals breathed easier after throwing material evidence into the hole. Whatever one wished to discard, the hole accepted it all. The hole cleans the city of its filth. The sea and sky seem to have become a bit clearer than before. Aiming at the heavens, new buildings went on being constructed, one after the other. One day, atop the high steel frame of a new building under construction, a workman was taking a break. Above his head, he heard a voice shout, "Ye, come on out." But in the sky to which he lifted his gaze, there was nothing at all. A clear blue sky merely spread over all. He thought it must be his imagination. Then, as he resumed his former position, from the direction where the voice had come, a small pebble skimmed by him and fell on past. The man, however, was gazing in idle reverie at the city's skyline growing ever more beautiful, and he failed to notice